The clock's ticking down, and it's time to take stock. What's the plan for the NFL draft? Brett Veach knows, but we probably do too as well here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. The draft countdown is on. We're going to go through it today with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. We're brought to you today by Monopoly Go. Yes, Monopoly Go. You have to admit you are competitive and you want to get into it. You should be a fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile twist on the classic Monopoly game. You can join your friends and download it right now. Monopoly Go is free on the App Store and on Google Play. We're going to play a game. And from the intro, I'm not saying I know everything that's going to happen, but I know what I would do. And that's what we're going to discuss today, because it's that point of draft season where it's just about the doing at this point. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day on every platform for free, everywhere, all the time. We start on YouTube, where you can like and sub and hit the bell. And then we go out to the podcast platforms, all audio. We're free everywhere you can get it, whether that's Spotify, Apple, the smallest audio platform you can think of. We're on it, and it's free. And you can get just that much more at 816-357-8781. That is our text line. We encourage you to do that. As we get a little inside information previous to picks in this draft, you will see some text from us if you're in that. Elsewise, we're going to let the chips fall where they may. And then we're going to check in with one Matt Derrick, who runs Chiefs Digest and basically corrects everything that I get a little overexcited for. Matt, how you doing?
I am doing pretty well, Ryan. Just getting ready for the week of excitement ahead.
Yeah, it is going to be a fun time. And there are wild cards that can come. We're going to cover that later in the show. We're going to talk about what is the goal if they choose to go up and get someone. But we're going to start right now with what the final plans are in place. This has been a very long process. Their board's been together since probably the week after the Super Bowl, and it's just been fine tweaking from now. That's pretty much done. As far as I understand, the Chiefs are like a lot of teams, and they kind of lock it down a week out and just say, okay, we're here. And is that what you understand? Do you think things are calm in the waters around Arrowhead Drive?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and you see it kind of around the league. I mean, all the general managers are kind of like a groundhog on February 2nd. They're poking their heads out now because they finally have time to come up for air. Brett Veach did his press conference with us on Friday. You see a lot of other GMs around the league doing their press conferences this week because they've got some free time now. You're right. Teams have their boards set early, and then it's just all the weeks and months since then, and all the interviews and the combines and the Zooms and the 30 visits, you name it. And the medicals. It's all about fine tuning the board. I mean, there might be some swapping. I mean, you might be moving a guy up a little bit here and there in their positional group. But by and large, what they've been doing the last few months is just removing guys from the board, saying, hey, this is a player we wouldn't take now because, hey, bad knee or didn't interview well or can't pick up the offense. We've learned something about this player no longer feels like they're going to fit our culture. So that they come off the board. Chiefs have a remarkable 221 players on their board. That's a lot for Brett Veach. It's a lot for anybody, but it's a lot for Brett Veach.
I was just going to go there too. And I thought that was maybe the most, I think, hysterical comment. Most people probably didn't get hysteria out of it, but just the fact that John Dorsey would be upset with him, I think that makes sense. He's got more prospects on the Chiefs official board this year than I have on mine. And folks, yes, you can get that NFL 33 starting today. It is free for everyone to download. I'm a little surprised by that. And that tells me that it goes towards their plans are a little wider this year. It's a little more if-then kind of plan than this is what we're doing. Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of it. And, and Brett concedes. I mean, hey, he's not probably going to go past 150 when they get into the draft. And that's just the nature of the league. I mean, even though you're going to have over 200 players selected, the fact is that, the Chiefs don't have a lot of players on their boards. They probably don't have that many quarterbacks on their board. Probably don't have any kickers on their board. Probably no punters on their board either. I mean, there's going to be some positions you don't have. Obviously, Chiefs are 4-3 defense, so they're not going to have a lot of 3-4 defensive ends on their board. There's going to be first-round guys that the Chiefs don't have on their boards because they don't fit with what they do. And that's true of every position. I mean, there's going to be some corners that say, hey, this might be a good player, but he can't play our scheme, so not on the board. But the other thing, too, is that, that board is also for after the draft. And that's for signing undrafted free agents. And the fact that, Brett's got a board that might have 70 names on it for, pursuing undrafted free agents, probably also an indication of just, that there is some difficulty when you're the Chiefs going out and getting some undrafted free agents, because those guys want a chance to make a team. And how difficult is it as an undrafted free agent to make a team if it's Super Bowl champs? It's hard. So you've got a lot of guys who are going to say, wait a minute, you know what? I mean, and this was absolutely an indication the last couple of years, and last year was a great example. I mean, the Chiefs did get some really good undrafted free agents that they wanted. How did they get them? They guaranteed them more money and they gave them a signing bonus. That's what they got to do to get players that they really want, because this isn't like other, it's not like a draft pick saying, hey, I got picked by the Chiefs. That's great. I'm going to the world champs here, because they think they're going to make the team. It's those undrafted guys. It's harder. So I think the Chiefs probably is an indication that just acknowledgement that, for every player that the Chiefs are able to sign as an undrafted free agent, they might have 3 guys that turn them down.
Yeah. And even that, take it to the next level, the Pacheco plan. You select somebody in the draft because you aren't going to get them as a UDFA. And I think that's more and more, the more championships you win, the harder that gets and the more you have to consider doing that. And so I'm not going to be surprised if they end up not only doing that with this particular group, but if they acquire any additional picks in this draft. Do you see them stockpiling and just taking 6th and 7th for that purpose?
Well, it's really curious because, we listened into Brett Veach on Friday, and Nick Jacobs and I did an interview with Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl that you can hear over our 41 is the Mike podcast. And both of them talked about the fact that, because there's half as many underclassmen in this year's draft as most years, that rounds 5, 6, and 7 are not as deep as usual. And there is definitely a feeling, especially because, there's some positions, running back's probably a really good example, that a lot of running backs stayed in college this year, that it's going to be a deeper draft. There's going to be some position groups like running back. They're going to be a whole lot better next year. And there's more value in a 5th, 6th, and 7th in 2025 than there is in 2024. So I could absolutely see the Chiefs using their 2 5ths and their 7th this year as maybe opportunities to use those to move up in, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds, maybe even use one of them to move up in the 1st if they want to. It'll take more than that to move up in the 1st, but it's an option. But I could also see, if the Chiefs make some moves down, maybe they want picks next year rather than this year. And you're right. I mean, that 7th round pick, it could absolutely be something that they want to hold on to, because maybe there's going to be an undrafted free agent that they really, really want and know that they can't get them unless they draft them. And great example of that is Trey Smith. They knew they would not be able to get Trey Smith as an undrafted free agent. He already had a deal in place with the team before the end of the 6th round. So that's why they took him in the 6th round, was because they couldn't get him any other way. So yeah, I mean, there is something about holding on to one of those. So if there's a player you really want, but then again, at the same time, this isn't 2021. This isn't 2025. This is a year in which the 7th round probably has a lot less value than other years.
Well, those are all baked into the plans. And by the way, folks, Zach Zinter is this year's Trey Smith, just so you know. There is more coming, and they have these scenarios all locked down already. Locked on is what I would say. What are they going to do in the 1st round? How would it look if they went up? That's coming up next on the Locked On Podcast Network. Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors, because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your ride or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. Make sure you check out our collective Locked On mock draft where you can see what I did with the Chiefs at 32. We didn't trade around, but that's one scenario. It's on the Locked On Sports 24/7. You can get all the answers there. We're going to have a ton of draft coverage for you. Go get subbed either here on YouTube or on Amazon Fire, where you can get Locked On Sports Today anytime you want, 24/7. I have a lot of theories, Matt. You generally shoot them down, but I want to talk about a theory that is not owned by me. If the Chiefs need to trade up, and it's always scenarios that every team runs in case. If they do it, do you have a feel right now today, 48 hours before round one, what that would be for? Is there a position group? Is there a prospect specifically that you feel like, okay, that's the impetus for them to give up that capital, maybe some day three picks that aren't as valued as they usually are, in order to go do that?
Yeah, and to that point, I asked Brett during the Friday press conference, if if he had an opportunity to move into the top 10 or top 15 to get a non-quarterback, would he do it, moving from 32? And he had no problem, admitting, oh yeah, absolutely. Now for the Chiefs, trading a first round pick involves talking to the owner. So we have to have Clark Hunt's buy-in, Andy Reid's buy-in. But he said they'd done it before, that there was an issue at a past draft. He didn't specify which, but that there was a player that they wanted to go up and get, and that they had all signed off and just couldn't get the deal done. So no, I mean, if the Chiefs want to move up into the top 10, top 15, Brett's willing to do it. Now, what position? I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you're only doing it in this draft in particular for a tackle or a wide receiver. Those are obviously your two biggest needs. Those are two positions that are absolutely loaded at the top of the draft. I mean, I've got my draft crush. I would trade probably all 7 draft picks to go get Joe Alt. Which is where I have you to step in those rare occurrences when I need you to stop me from giving away the farm. But, what would it cost? Well, the Chiefs moved from 27 to 10 to get Mahomes, and it cost them 2 firsts and a third. That's pretty accurate. I mean, if you look at the draft charts, and you can try it out at your own if you want to go to like the PFF simulator and some of those where you can trade picks and test it out yourself. But the two, some couple of the draft charts, like the Rich Hill draft chart that a lot of NFL teams use, points wise, the Chiefs, I mean, even discounting that it would be the 32nd, say it's going to be the 32nd pick in the 2025 draft too, that this year's one and that third round from Tennessee next year would be enough to get you to like 6 or 7. Now you have to have the other team agree on that. And usually if you're moving up, you've got to overpay. So it wouldn't surprise me that the Chiefs wanted to get in the top 10. It might be a 1, a 3, and another day 3 pick. But that's what it would take. Now it's a little bit less as you move on down, but I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, if Chiefs, if say for instance, Ryan, if one of the top 3 receivers or Joe Alt is available at 10, 9 or 10, would you have any trouble giving that up? I wouldn't.
I would go for Joe Alt right now. Let's say that. In fact, I did that just last week on our Freaky Friday trade up. I only went to 6 with it, but that was the scenario. And I think he's certainly worth it. One of the top 3 wide receivers. Yes, absolutely. In fact, the great thing about that is my number 1 receiver is most likely number 3 for most teams out there, because I think Rome Odunze is better than the other 2. That's just my opinion. You can see it on the draft board, folks, on NFL33.com. But I will say this too. It's not the only scenario, right? People should understand the value of Joe Alt. I think across the league, they're going to do that as well and represent it correctly. Is it the same thing? Would you give up a first and a third to go to 14 with the Saints or 19? I think you can still get something done that gives you a tackle prospect, maybe a wide receiver prospect, depending on what you're looking for. Those are the 2 that I think are worth going up for. Do you think that that's it, or is there another position group that stands out to you?
Well, I think it's one player in particular that stands out. And I mean, that just kind of depends on probably where you fall on that particular player and what you kind of envision. But I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I'd be tempted to consider it for Brock Bowers, being in the top 15, because you're talking about just catching the football and guys you could throw to. I'd have no trouble playing 12 personnel all day long with him and Travis Kelce on the field. So, if that meant that you just play a lot of 12 and you didn't have a third receiver out there, I'm okay with that. So
BB to KC should be a chant at this point. I think very, very good point. It's an addition to that I don't think about enough, only because of you don't consider tight end something that you would go trade up for. And we know that this isn't going to happen until it's on the clock. Arizona Cardinals we're not going to do anything until the draft begins. And they're on the clock at number 4. You think that they might be able to move around. Is 4 too rich for the Kansas City Chiefs, even if they have to give up maybe a day 3 on top of this year and next year, plus the 1 and the 1 and the 3 that you were talking about?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not one that honestly I've looked at much, because I don't know that 4. I mean, 1, I don't know if it's going to really be an option, because I think even if the Chiefs wanted to go to 4, there's a couple of teams that I think are willing to match all offers. And honestly, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, I guess you could drive up the price a little bit if you want to, because one of those teams is the Broncos. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, all indications are, and this would be the best case scenario for the Chiefs. The Chiefs need 4 quarterbacks to go early in any of these scenarios. So they really need JJ McCarthy to go early on. And maybe, I mean, if that happens, maybe 5 quarterbacks all of a sudden go, because maybe some guys are like, well, wait a minute, we got to get Bo Nix or Michael Penix for some reason, and panic and decide that they need to get their quarterback because they don't want to be the one that's left, without a chair at the end. Right. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why I kind of cross off 4 a little bit. But there's a group of picks there between the Bears at 9. I think even the Jets at 10 a little bit. Whatever happens at 11, which is the Vikings right now, could end up being the Cardinals, if the Vikings are the team that moves up. I mean, you're not going to be able to get anything out of the Broncos, but if the Broncos move up and all of a sudden it's Arizona in their spot, now that pick is available. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be some chances for the Chiefs to get into maybe the top 12, top 13. Not going to get the Raiders pick, but there's an opportunity that they could move up if one of those players drops farther than we're thinking.
And I have a couple of scenarios about that, because I think some of the teams that you mentioned, along with some of the players you mentioned, could change the fate for Kansas City. We're going to talk about that next here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, stop me if you've heard this before. Matt can tell you, I am generally considered a pretty competitive person, because if I'm doing something, I need to come out on top, is the way that I'm looking to do it. And if you have a competitive side too, I know that you like probably competing with your friends the best, because that's what I'm like. If you want to do that, Monopoly Go is the way to do it. I know you've seen it before. You've probably heard it before. It's been downloaded 150 million times. It's a great twist on the old Monopoly game that you can play hundreds of different boards in all kinds of crazy locations, building up amazing cities and bringing yourself some big money. And the best part is you can do it all at the expense of your pals. You can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like the old Monopoly. You can heist their vaults and take it all for yourself, and you can get on that leaderboard to become the biggest Monopoly tycoon you can. But it's not just the competitive side that loves it. It's every team out there can add somebody like your friends. You can team up and terrorize the world in time tournaments, and you earn huge rewards. So go get the game with your friends. Download Monopoly Go right now. It's free everywhere. The App Store and on Google Play. That's Monopoly Go. Check it out. I would not charge you, Matt, I promise. But what I will charge you is for time spent on the Locked On Sports Today feed, because it's 24/7, so it's free as well. I want to get into some of the craziness here. And again, you're very good at talking me down for some of these things, but you mentioned a couple of players there. And for me, QB4 in this class is Michael Penix. It's not JJ McCarthy. It is not Bo Nix. But I think that there's a scenario, partially that you just discussed, where 2 of those 3 quarterbacks could end up in the AFC West at pick 13 or higher. If that happens, that pushes more value down to the Chiefs, and then I think also takes away some of the targets that other teams in the teens might have. So I think that there's more opportunity. I'm almost rooting for it, because I'm not scared of the quarterbacks, and I'd rather them make some circumstance that allows the Chiefs to get into the teens. Do you think that those two things go hand in hand?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more quarterbacks that go early, the better for the Chiefs. And you talk about wild cards. I mean, I'm going to bring up teams that, as you know, you've heard me say before, Ryan, there are, at any point in time, there are 8 teams in the NFL who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And fortunately for the Chiefs, I mean, 3 of those are wild cards in the top 10. because who knows what the Giants are going to do at 6. I mean, right. Giants at that point, I mean, are they going to take a quarterback? I mean, they might get the 6th quarterback off the board if they do. So that would be insane, but they might do it. Are they going to take the best player available? At that point, it would be a receiver or it's Joe Alt. I don't trust what the Giants are going to do, so maybe they're going to do something crazy. Look at what Rand Carthon has done. I don't know what he's going to do, so I can't trust that he's going to make the right move. Atlanta's a little bit more of a question mark, and I'm going to give Ryan Poles a pass, even though the organization is a dumpster fire for the most part. I like Ryan Poles, so I'm going to think that he's going to do the right thing. But you know what? That's also a place that the Chiefs could trade to. So, because at least they got the relationship. And that's one thing too. I mean, there are some teams you just can't trade with. They don't want to trade ones. If they do, it's only because they're going to move up. They don't want to move back at all. And I absolutely believe, that there is something to the fact that while AFC teams might be willing to trade with the Chiefs later on in the draft, they don't want to trade with the Chiefs in the first round because they don't want to make them any better. And certainly nobody in the AFC West is trading with the Chiefs. So it's not like you're going to be able to get up to the Chargers or you're going to make a deal with the Raiders, the Broncos later. So, to me, my wild cards are what some of those teams that are just lost in the woods are going to do. One of the consensus boards has Brock Bowers going to the Jets at 10, or at least being one of the top 10 players. Would that be a good pick for the Jets? Yeah, it would, but I don't know that the Jets are going to do that for sure. They might take a tackle, maybe, and knowing the Jets, Joe Alt could be there, and they take somebody who's not Joe Alt as their tackle. They might take Fuaga or something like that. I don't know what they're going to do. And, in talking with people in the Chiefs front office in the last couple of days, that's the thing I've heard twice now, is that you just don't know how this thing is going to unfold. And that means, as far as the Chiefs going and having a player that they like falling to maybe, to 10 or 12 or 15, they don't know, but they got to be ready to react. They got to be ready to jump if given the opportunity. If there's another player, a player maybe they've got a first round grade on, but it's more like maybe their 15th guy, and all of a sudden he's available at 22. Got to be ready to act. That's basically how you got Trent McDuffie. So, yep. And that's where I think, a Brian Thomas from LSU fits into that category because he's kind of the borderline. You've got the top 3 at the top, then you have Brian Thomas, and then you have everybody else. And so to me, hey, if Brian Thomas is available at 23, that's when I start, making my calls. And that would be a much cheaper trade up, obviously. Chiefs could probably get into the mid 20s with just the 3rd rounder plus 32. Mm-hmm. So that's an easy one for me. But that's the thing. There's going to be unexpected curveballs. You don't know what's going to happen, but you just got to be ready to act when something breaks your way.
I completely agree with you, and I was going to mention Thomas if you didn't, so well done. We already talked about Fautanu, so I think there's plenty of options there for them to go towards. But if you had to pick one team that sets it up to be the falling down spot that just blows a pick that allows the Chiefs to do something, who is it?
That blows the picks that allows the Chiefs to move up. You know what? I the one combination of picks that I'm most intrigued in, and this is the plurality of it, because once again I look at it of the 14 million multiverses out there, and what could happen. I think it's the 23, 24, and 25 that are really key, because 23 right now you got the Vikings, which they may trade out of that if they're trying to get their quarterback. So they may move that pick to somebody else. So it may end up in somebody else's hands. Could be Arizona. Who knows what that could happen there. But hey, at least if it ends up in Arizona, it's another team that the Chiefs could trade with. They could trade with the Vikings. So moving up to there is doable. The Cowboys are at 24. Cowboys aren't trading out of 24. They might trade up, but I don't think that they're going to trade out of 24. If the Cowboys, depending on what they do, if they blow it, we'll see what could happen, because they could absolutely be interested in some of the same position the Chiefs are as far as a tackle and a wide receiver goes. So if there's a good tackle there's Brian Thomas is available at 24 or something. I think Amarius Mims is probably a big name that would be there at 24. If you're really high on Guyton from Oklahoma, he would probably be there at 24. If the Cowboys pass on somebody like that, and now Green Bay's sitting there, I think 25 is a place that you can really move to if you're the Chiefs and get who you want. It may not be, like I said, it may not be one of the top 3 receivers. It may not be Joe Alt, but if your next best player that you thought you might be able to get is available at 25. that's, I think, the best place that you could possibly move up. And it's an important place because, you got Tampa Bay and you got Arizona after that, which are, once again, I mean, potential trading partners. But then Buffalo gets on the clock at 28, and Buffalo's probably going to be interested in somebody you want. Probably important to get in front of Buffalo, especially if you want a receiver. Probably important to get in front of them because they're going to take somebody. So I just don't see the opportunity for the Chiefs to move up much, past 26 or 27. And I think Green Bay is one you can work with and make a good deal.
Yeah, I think that's certainly plausible. We'll see how it unfurls. And folks, I'm going to be live the entire time on rgrfootball.com. That'll take you to the YouTube channel where you can get on it. We're going to wrap it up here each night of the draft to give you the recap. Matt, what are your plans? Where can we find you on draft night?
I will be at 1 Arrowhead Drive, so I will be there. Hopefully, if everything works out streaming wise, we're going to try and bring you all the press conferences on Chiefs Digest on the YouTube channel. And that's going to include some of the things that you don't normally get live. So if everything works out, we're going to bring you the Zooms with the players after the selections. And what I'm really excited about, because these normally don't get streamed, I'm going to try and stream the scouts on Saturday when they do their press conferences after the selections on day 3. So if all the logistics work out, Ryan, this weekend, got a lot of content coming up for you on the Chiefs Digest YouTube channel. Otherwise, we'll have, even if it's not streamed, hopefully we'll get the videos up pretty quickly of any of those as well. So cross your fingers that all the logistics work out. We can bring it to you live, but going to be a lot of stuff going on. And obviously all the content that I can get for you at Chiefs Digest. Our podcast, the Nick Jacobs 41 is the mic. We will be doing recap shows both Thursday and Friday night, and then we'll do our regular show on Sunday. So a lot of episodes, and if you want to, when this comes out, new afternoon on Wednesday, we're going to have our interview with Joe Alt coming up. So don't want to miss that.
I'll be watching that ad and all the scouts, folks. Make sure you check out ChiefsDigest.com here on YouTube, as well as ChiefsDigest.com itself. Thank you, Matt, for always setting me straight and, having a couple of theories of your own today. I was
going to say, you have to rein me in a couple of times. So
all right. Appreciate We're going to get there. Folks, the draft is just about here tomorrow. Our final predictions, what we're hearing and where we're going next. Then we will have draft night coverage. Make sure you get to ChiefsDigest.com. You go to Chiefs Corner, see what Chris is cooking up on the quarterbacks and the cap and everything that goes into the business side. Make sure you're at NFL33.com to get my draft board. It's downloadable. You can check them out with a pen if you want. As we go down the list, certainly capable, always free over there on NFL33.com, and RJR Football is where I'll be live most of the weekend. So thanks for being with us. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell on this channel, and be with us next time. It's so close, Matt. I'm ready to retire, so that's what we're going to do today, folks. Have a great night tonight, and we will definitely be back with you tomorrow, getting ready for our last push to the NFL draft and beyond.